how do you get started optimizing qualification and then the routing of, so I mean, there's ways you can do this too, right? You can qualify off the website inside of your CRM platform. There's lots of ways that the qualification process can take place. And, in chatting with Pete before, one of the things that I'm sure he wants to reinforce here, as mentioned earlier, is that there's a lot of different systems out there. Most likely, every single person on here has their own unique system that's been set up inside of their business. And nobody's here to beat up on the system or platforms or tech stack that you have in place. I can certainly appreciate working with a number of clients in a full book here at Refine Labs that everybody's setup is different when it comes to routing and qualification, and that you have to work inside the boundaries of all of them and then work to improve them over time, right? Whether it's tweaking the qualification scoring algorithms or whatever it is. The point that I will make, because we were talking about the website initially, is that I think there's a piece of it in regards to buyer enablement, in that we want to take as much friction as possible down and allow those people to qualify themselves out before initiating a conversation with your sales team. I think in my experience as a demand marketer, I have done my fair share of introducing the wrong people to the sales team with the best of intentions. And so, it's not necessarily everybody that comes to the website needs to be routed directly to an account executive immediately for a high level call. And it's just kind of the way it is. Some people won't be able to afford it. They don't have the budget or authority or whatever it is. There's lots of reasons why. So qualification has come up as a technology piece, as a thing that we do as part of marketing. But for me personally, again, starting on the website, by making the buyer experience as great as it can be, by removing all the friction possible, by enabling all of the learning, by building trust with that visitor, and by giving them everything, soup to nuts, give them a pricing page with actual pricing on it, those types of things. That will allow that visitor to help understand whether or not you're going to be a fit for them. I know, again, that's not going to work perfectly for all industries. That's not the type of place that some people need to prove value through having those direct sales conversations. And that's why they squeeze folks into that type of funnel. And that's okay. But for what I try and like to do is get as much of the self-qualification piece out up front and allow that person to say, you know what, this is logical for me. I would like to take the next step and engage with the sales team. Because those conversations in our data and our experience tend to lead to much higher conversion rates, much higher contract values, and much lower sales cycles, which is what's really important for us.
Yeah, I think if I could echo off a point like this idea of reducing friction. So I won't name who on Eric's team told me this the other day, but I had a conversation with someone on the Refine Labs team, and a benchmark that they share with me is roughly 7 to 8% of your total demo requests, like in terms of total, like a benchmark, you'll be like that, consider that good in terms of conversion to revenue. So 90+% of the people that are raising their hand and saying, I have interest, I want to learn more about your product, are not converting to revenue. So the idea of helping self-qualify and removing all the friction, like let's not undersell that for anyone that's listening to this or Sam, like that first and foremost, 100%. And there's ways to do that, right? Based on some of the stuff we talked about earlier, nailing your value prop, addressing objections up front. Some companies are tackling this by sharing on-demand versions of demos or making the ability to actually see products before you request like a live consultation or a live version of a demo tailored to you. So those are some strategies. I think the other thing I would share before I hand it over to Mark would be something as a pet peeve for me is provide a preferred communication method. So like there's nothing worse than you land on a website or feel like you're calling your credit card company if you're going to go more to like the consumer side, and they force you into like an automated call tree, or like you're on hold waiting for some virtual bot, and then like you have to repeat yourself 57 times because the virtual bot has no idea what you're saying. I hope you've all experienced that, because it's actually, I really hope none of you experience, because it's the most miserable experience of all time. So if someone wants to chat live, give them that option. If they're okay with a chat bot strategy, great. That's cool too. If I fill out a request to contact someone, allow me to choose the preference. And again, I say this, as I alluded to up front, that even within the company I work at today and past companies I've been in, we're still trying to perfect this too. So I'm not saying anyone's perfect at this, but provide communication mechanisms that people want. Like I can't stress this enough. That is friction point numero uno, and most businesses get that wrong. And again, I don't want to speak for anyone else on this panel, but there is nothing worse than automated call trees and shit like that. That stuff is awful.